What's up, everybody? Nico Dwyer here for the 10th inning, giving you another episode of This Day in Sports History. In yesterday's episode, we saw one of the rarest achievements in MLB history take place, and that's two no-hitters on the same date when Dave Stewart and Fernando Valenzuela both threw a no-hitter in 1990, for only the second time in MLB history, the other being in 1898. We don't have anything like that today because we're not talking about the one in 1898, but we do have some more no-hitters to get into today, as well as some other important events. So if you all enjoy this video, leave a like on it. If you're new to the channel and you like what you see, hit that subscribe button. Let's get into it. This Day in Sports History. We start out today in England, and we have some Wimbledon championships to get into. First, in 1897, R.F. Doherty for the men's championship defeated Harold Mahoney 6-4, 6-4, 6-3 in straight sets to win the first of 4 singles titles at Wimbledon and the first of 4 straight. Now, him and his brother Lawrence would go on to completely dominate the doubles game, but we'll talk more about Lawrence in a little bit. And that little bit is right now. In 1902 at Wimbledon, on the men's side, Lawrence Doherty wins his first Wimbledon singles title of 5 straight and 6 overall majors, defeating Arthur Gore 6-4, 6-3, 3-6, 6-0. 1 year later at Wimbledon, in 1903, we have both the men's and the women's final. Let's start off with the men's. Lawrence Doherty defeated Frank Risley 7-5, 6-3, 6-0 for his second consecutive title at Wimbledon of 5 straight, 6 majors overall. Now on the women's side, Dorothea Chambers defeated Ethel Larcombe 4-6, 6-4, 6-2 in 3 sets for the first of 7 Wimbledon titles and 7 majors on the singles side. Move up 5 years to 1908, but stay with Wimbledon. On the men's side, Arthur Gore took his second of 3 Wimbledon titles, defeating Herbert Roper Barrett 6-3, 6-2, 4-6, 3-6, 6-4 in 5 sets. Now on the women's side at Wimbledon, Charlotte Cooper Sterry wins her 5th and final Wimbledon title with a 6-4, 6-4 straight set victory over Agnes Morton. Also in 1908, now we go to Major League Baseball though, one of the greatest pitchers of all time, the guy the award is named after, Cy Young, threw his second career no-hitter for the Boston Red Sox as they defeated the New York Highlanders 8-0. Young on the day, 9 innings pitched, 1 walk-allowed, 2 strikeouts, en route to the no-hitter. We just had one of the greatest pitchers of all time. Now we go to one of the greatest boxers of all time. In 1909, Jack Johnson fights Tony Ross to a no decision in 6 rounds to retain the heavyweight boxing title. This would be Johnson's 3rd defense of the title, and one he would hold for a little longer. 1 year later in 1910, we bounce right back to Wimbledon. On the men's side, Anthony Wilden defeated Arthur Gore 6-4, 7-5, 4-6, 6-2 for his first of 4 consecutive Wimbledon singles titles. This would also be his 3rd of 6 overall single majors in his career. Let's get off tennis for a little bit and let's go to golf. In 1911 at the British Open, Harry Vardon wins his 5th championship after an 18-hole playoff with the 1907 champion Arnaud Massey, in which Vardon would end up winning by 10 strokes. This not only would be Vardon's 5th British Open championship, but this would also be the 6th of 7 overall majors for him. 5 years later in 1916, we go to the US Open now. Chick Evans, with a score of 2 under, would set a new US Open scoring record and win his only US Open title, 2 strokes ahead of runner-up Jock Hutchinson. Now, if we were counting his amateur status in his majors, this would be the first of 3 overall. If not, this would be his only major in his career. We go from one amateur in Evans to another amateur in Bobby Jones. 1929 at the US Open, Bobby Jones, with a score of 6 over, wins his 3rd US Open title after a 36-hole playoff, defeating Al Espinoza by a crazy 23 strokes to win his 5th of 7 majors if we're not counting the amateurs here, and if we are, the 9th of 13 overall. Move up 1 year to 1930, and it's a name we haven't really heard on this channel for a while, but Don Bradman in cricket scores 254 runs for Australia as they defeated England Right back to golf though, in 1933 at the LPGA Western Open, June Beebe defeated Jane Weiler 3-2 for her second Western Open title and the final major of her career. Now we have another no-hitter to talk about. In 1948, Cleveland Indians Hall of Fame pitcher Bob Lemon would no-hit the Detroit Tigers in a 2-0 victory. Lemon on the day, 9 innings pitched, 3 walks, 4 strikeouts, just another achievement to add to his Hall of Fame resume. Move up to 1962 and we have 2 events to talk about. We'll start out with another no-hitter. The great Sandy Koufax for the Los Angeles Dodgers no-hit the New York Mets in a 5-0 victory. On the day, Koufax, 9 innings pitched, 5 walks allowed, 13 strikeouts, and this would be the first of 4 no-hitters that Koufax would throw in his illustrious career. Also in 62, at the US Open on the women's side, Merle Lidstrom with a score of 13 over won her first and only LPGA Tour victory, 2 strokes ahead of runners-up Ruth Jessen and Joanne Prentice. 12 years later in 1974, we stay with golf on the women's side. At the Canadian Open, Carol Jo Scala with a score of 11 under wins 3 strokes ahead of runner-up Joanne Carner for her only major. We're talking about potentially a lot of the greatest people at their respective position, but this one, it's almost unanimous that he is. In 1975, Muhammad Ali retains his World Heavyweight Boxing title, defeating Joe Buhner by unanimous decision in their rematch that Ali had also won in 12 rounds. This one though would go 15, still unanimous, still going with the great one. 10 years later, at the 1985 US Senior Open, Miller Barber with a score of 3 under wins 4 strokes ahead of runner-up Roberto De Vincenzo to win back-to-back Senior Open titles and his 3rd Senior Open title overall. 2 years later, in 1987, there is a new high jump world record, and I'm going to apologize right off the bat if I mispronounce this. Patrick Gilberto of Sweden would jump 2.42 meters, 7 feet, 11 3/4 inches, not quite 8 feet. It would eventually be broken. 8 feet would eventually be eclipsed. Not by him though, but he would end up holding this record for just over a year. 3 years later in 1991 at the LPGA Championship, Meg Mallon with a score of 10 under wins her first of 4 major titles, 1 stroke ahead of runners-up Pat Bradley and Ayako Okamoto. Now we move to 1995, and it's not a no-hitter, but we move to the other side of the plate. We have someone getting their 3,000th hit. Eddie Murray, who was currently a member of the Cleveland Indians at the time, becomes only the 20th player to reach 3,000 hits, and only the 3rd person to get their 3,000th hit with the Indians, the other 2 being Tris Speaker and Nap Lajoie. Murray's 3,000th hit wasn't anything special, it was just a single to right field off of pitcher Mike Trombley. But this hit did do something for Murray. He joined Pete Rose as the only switch hitters to be in the 3,000 hit club. That's right, not even the great Mickey Mantle is in there. Only Murray and Rose are in there as switch hitters, which might stand for a while. 1 year later in 1996, at the UEFA European Championship final, Germany was going up against the Czech Republic, and Germany were the heavy favorites in this game. They were actually in the same group at the beginning of this tournament. Germany won the first game against the Czech Republic 2-0. Would this be a repeat of the same thing? Almost. In the 59th minute, Patrick Berger scored the first and opening goal for the Republic, giving them a 1-0 lead. About 15 minutes later in the 73rd minute, Oliver Bierhoff tied it up with a 1-1 score, and this game would end up going into extra time, but then Bierhoff would score once again in the 95th minute, getting his 2nd goal of the day and giving Germany the 2-1 lead, something they would not look back on getting that championship. Now we stay with football in 2002, but this time we go up one step, go to the FIFA World Cup, which was the first time being held in an Asian country, and Brazil was going up against Germany in the final. Brazil would end up defeating Germany 2-0 to win their record 5th title, and Ronaldo would end up scoring in the 67th and 79th minute for Brazil. Really the last major big move that the Brazil national team has done at the international level, such as the World Cup. Also in 2002 at the US Senior Open, Don Pooley with a score of 10 under wins 1 stroke ahead of Tom Watson after a playoff for his only Senior Open victory. Move up 11 years and we have 2 golf events. First we have the US Open on the women's side and Inbee parked with a score of 8 under, wins her second US title, 4 strokes ahead of runner-up IK Kim. This not only would be her second US Open victory, but the 4th of 7 majors in her career. Then at the Senior Players Championship, Kenny Perry, who would end up tying Jack Nicklaus's record for aggregate score of 261 with a 2-par score of 19 under, wins the first of 4 Champions Tour titles, 2 strokes ahead of runners-up Fred Couples and Duffy Waldorf. Now we move up to the 2018 FIFA World Cup, which saw Kylian Mbappe, at only 19 years old, become the second teenager to score twice in a World Cup match, as France would eliminate Argentina in a 4-3 victory. Mbappe would join the great Pele, who would do this in 1958, as the only other teenager to score twice in a World Cup game. These goals would come in the 64th and 68th minute for Mbappe, and he would be on the team that would eventually win the World Cup in France. Finally, in 2019, at the US Open Senior Men's Tournament, Steve Stricker, with a score of 19 under, won his second Champions Major Tour of the year, 6 strokes ahead of runners-up David Toms and Jerry Kelly. So there you have it. That's what happened on this day in sports history. If I left anything out, I do apologize. If I mispronounced any names, I also apologize. In the upcoming weeks, I will be giving you my predictions for the rest of the NBA season, the rest of the NHL season, MLB season, and the NFL season. So keep posted for that. Click the bell to turn on notifications when the video goes live. I will see you tomorrow. For Nick O'Dwyer and the 10th inning, stay safe, everybody.